What I really see in all of sessions that I've done is most of them, I'll say, lack clarity. They're confused a lot. They don't know whether to go ahead or whether to stop or whether to do something else. And if you really ask them, okay, so what is it that you want to do? It will be very vague answers. And I understand because nobody asked them this question before. So when I ask them, okay, what is it that you want to do? And we come up with some solution or some answer. And then I ask him, okay, so why? Why do you want to do this? And then there is no answer as such. Okay, why? Yeah, this may be money, maybe something else, maybe something else. But they really don't have a direct answer to why they are doing what they are doing.
This is episode number 6 of the Midlife Station podcast with midlife coach who believes having clarity in your life is of prime importance. Vaibhav Datar. Hello all, this is Rupesh Nahar, the host of the Midlife Station, a fortnightly podcast where we bring in experts and interesting stories of people who have achieved tremendous success during their midlife so that we can get educated and work towards the betterment of our midlife. Welcome to another episode of the Midlife Station. I am super excited to interview our today's guest, Vaibhav Datar. Vaibhav is a professional midlife coach, an adept author, and a blogger. His best-selling book, Simplify Your Life, emphasizes on etching behavioral and mindset changes in an individual's life that would lead to extreme happiness. His blog, The Maven Style, shares powerful insights on midlife crisis, parenting issues, self-discovery, transformation, and entrepreneurship. An avid learner with profound interest in analyzing people and their behaviors, he has pursued various certification courses such as graphology, hypnosis, as well as color analyst from a plethora of institutes. He is an advocate of Vision Board and strongly believes that clarity in life is the most important gift that one can give to his own self. In this power-packed episode, we discuss with Vaibhav on why we as humans are not able to keep our life simple, challenges and emotions Vaibhav went through during his mid-30s, his journey around transitioning from a IT career to doing something of his own, top 3 issues that people face in their midlife today, how to get clarity in your life and why is it so important, what is Vision Board and how you can apply it in your life, and much more. Before we jump in, I would request you to please do subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcast, Google Podcast or Spotify so that you don't miss on any of our future episodes. You can also connect with us on our Instagram handle, The Midlife Station. Now, without much further ado, let us dive straight into the conversation with our today's guest, Vaibhav Datar. Hi Vaibhav, I'm quite excited to have you on the show today. Thanks a lot for coming in.
Hey, hi Rupesh. Even I'm excited to be speaking with you on my favorite topic, which is midlife.
Well, I wanted to start with the book which you have written, which is Simplify Your Life. Now, what attracted me was the name of the book. The name of the book is simple, but the meaning is so powerful. And I believe each and every one of us would be able to relate to it. So I'm a bit curious to understand, in first place, why we as a human being make a life more complex compared to keeping it a bit simple. Can you share some of your views on this?
Yeah, so one of the major things, the reason that we make it complicated is money, obviously, right? Everybody wants to earn more and more money. And he feels that doing more things in the given time will make him earn more money. I can give a very, very simple example on that basis. Like all have our mobiles with us, right? And then there are those apps which come in which help us to message or call. And then there are these developed apps which we download from various sources onto a system. It could be Taskmaster, it could be Project Master, something to remind us about something, and it could be about health. And it's not only that we download only one app for one part. We have countless number of apps which we download and keep. And thinking that we might need them tomorrow, we just keep on accumulating them We may use it for a couple of days or 4 or 5 days, and then we really forget about them. So a lot of these things get attached to your mobile as such, right? So for an example, it was seen in the research that on an average on any mobile, there are 85 plus apps, right? And if you leave out the system apps, say 20 of them, there are 65 apps on the mobile on an average. And when the research asked people like how many apps do they use on a regular basis, there were only 3 or 4. So more than 60 apps were installed on the user's mobile, which were not used daily. Obviously, some were used monthly. But the idea, what I'm saying is, we think that by downloading that app, we are going to make our mobile life or the life simplified. But what we're actually doing is we are hogging the entire system. The mobile is going to get hot, and there are a lot of things that are going to affect your performance, the productivity of your mobile. It's the same way that we also do. We feel that going for some things or doing some things is going to help us simplify. Like probably I have heard that someone went to the gym and he has lost so many kgs. So I feel I should also go. And then I spend more than 1.5 hours to go to the gym, do my workouts and come back. And within 10 days, I lose the inspiration or the intention or the motivation entirely to do it. Because I'm not a gym person. And it's just that I felt that the person went there. So I should be also following that because that looks to be good. But what I've now added is I've added a complexity into my life because I've paid my gym money. I do not have the intention or the motivation or the inspiration to go to the gym. So there's this added pressure of losing the money if I'm not utilizing the resources as such. So suddenly I made my life complicated. And that's, I will say it's like building the wall brick by brick. And one thing builds upon the other and then the other and then the other. And then we attach so many things into our life that it's not easy for us to get out of it then. And suddenly it becomes a big cage, a big wall around us, and it becomes so complicated for us to come out of it.
When you pointed out the point regarding having so many apps in the mobile, I just checked my mobile and I could easily relate to your point that I too have so many apps. With 80% of them, I rarely use them. I might use them once in a quarter. And it just is there on my mobile, sitting there doing nothing. So I can relate to your point. Well, now I wanted to understand the phase of your life where you were working in an IT job. And while working in that industry and while being in that job, can you share with us some of your experiences around how were you looking at life? Did you had a sense of fulfillment, or was it something constantly bothering you in your life as if you're missing something? Can you please share some experiences and thoughts around what all things were occupying your mind, especially when you are approaching 30 and during that time frame? Can you share some of your thoughts there?
In my last job that I was there, I was working as an ODC manager for a very reputed organization as such. And I was leading a group of developers out here. But the entire project was being led by the Asia office. So my job here was more of a coordination type of activity. I was not directly related to the projects as such. Now, what really happened was this was a very new position, and I had all the things that I could really do. So everything was there. The responsibilities were there. But me being me, I created a lot of processes. I created a lot of systems out there. And believe me, in an IT job, I was free 80% of my time. Okay. So I used to reach, say, office at 9. I used to leave at 6. From 9 to 11, most of my work for the day was done. And from 11 to 6, almost, like I used to find what I could do more. And it being a restricted facility, I could not just open up a book and read. I had to do something or the other. But like passing the time for an IT engineer, which is like very rare, okay, was getting very difficult for me as such. And I was then going through this entire process of what am I doing? Am I really adding value to the customer? And am I really adding value to my own self? Am I really growing here? Because that was when I was 34. And those are your growing years. And you don't want to waste your time doing nothing in your prime, I will say, and not contributing. So that sense of satisfaction that was never there during those last 1 year or so that I was there. So a lot of mixed reactions were in my mind. Like, first of all, I was thinking about my personal growth, and I really could not see my personal growth out there. The second is the impact that I was creating. I really felt that whatever I could have done, I did. And there was it was then becoming a repetitive, monotonous task for me. So I was feeling really like not there. And then I was also thinking about my family. Tragic death had occurred in my family as such. And during those last 3 to 4 months, I was not able to take care of my father during those those last 3 or 4 months. And then I was thinking, what's the use of such a job wherein I can't be there with my family? We had also birth of my son, and I could not be there because of obviously the office reasons. So I thought, what is the use of doing all of these things? Then it really came to my mind is, if I could do something about my capabilities, which is talking to people, interacting with them, understanding them, listening them, and if I could really use these skills in a better way, that would be really good. And that's when I came across certification in coaching, and then I did that. So all of that happened. But this was a turning point in my own life when I was at that moment. But I felt I really should be doing something like a business or the individual service as such, which could really, really help people. And all my growing years that I've been into IT, I really learned a lot because my boss gave me a lot of good opportunities, leadership opportunities, wherein I could really learn a lot about humans and human interactions and how people play it out. So it was very easy for me to sit across in an appraisal or a feedback session, understand the other person's point of view, and give the appropriate response to that entire thing. So I thought I was well suited for this, and that's where I took the jump.
Right. So what I could understand from you and the points which you have shared, so you valued freedom more than security, which means you were okay to let go a secure job and the comfortable life which brings along with it, and wanted to have a bit more freedom where you can spend time with your family and loved ones as well, which I believe, as you said, this thought comes to mind for most of us when we are around that age and we are navigating through this midlife stage. So I wanted to know, you said you were around 34 when these thoughts got strong within you and you decided to do something which you were interested in, which is talking to people and see how you can help in their journey. Now, was it that during that time you realized, or before that also you had these thoughts and you knew that, okay, you want to do something which would be related to people? And did you do some preparation prior to that? Or just that when you were 34, you started thinking, okay, now I would plan my transition. So can you share some of the planning which you did before that?
To answer this specifically, I believe when we look back, you see all these universal signals. Okay, but when you are there, it's not very evident for you. So one of the biggest things that happened for me was around 2005 when I was in the UK. I bought a game called as Cashflow. Okay, 101 by Rich Dad Poor Dad, and we played that game a lot. Right, so it is about a game about how we can generate passive income. Okay, and we played that game a lot. Now that game actually, you can say, instigated, okay, that feeling in me that whatever I'm doing, I need to also add something to my life. Like I need to add a business to my life. I might just become a CTO, but why not become a director of an organization or become the founder of an organization? So something like that started coming into my mind. So that was actually the preparation, because for that 1 year, we played that game almost 20-30 times. And the more you play, the more it gets imbibed into your DNA as such. Passive income became my thought process that I always wanted to create a passive income. And in that process, I also started one small company while I was working with my company as such. So on the sidelines, but it really didn't work out from the passive income stuff. But the itch to do business was always there. So I was always looking out for opportunities wherein I could do a business somewhere and earn money. Okay. So that's how it started. Second thing that worked really well in my favor was my upbringing. In a way, you might call it ideal, but somewhere in my mind, I always felt that everybody is a good person and everybody is doing it for the right reasons. If you are able to find those right reasons, it will be good. So if you ask my school friends, they will tell you that I was the most shy and a silent person in the town. I never used to talk much, but I used to always listen. Now, these listening qualities developed over a period of time. And as I went through my professional journey, I became more and more patient, more and more of a listener type, because I just can sit across and listen to anyone for hours with full concentration as such. And when I started doing all of these things, 2012 arrived and my earlier boss was in another organization, and he said, you're a good person, you're a good trainer as such. You can stand and speak publicly as well. So why don't you do or try something around that? And that really triggered me somewhere to start thinking that, oh yeah, if my boss thinks, am I doing that or not doing that? So things like those then started going through my mind. And then I was not very happy with the job that I was doing. Then the search started. And when I looked at coaching as such, coaching beautifully fit into my entire personality as such. Like as a coach, you need to be silent, you need to be listening, and you need to be just curiously asking questions. You need to be non-judgmental. So a lot of these things, that's a puzzle, no, gets beautifully fit. It really was resonating with my personality as such, that I started thinking that why don't I become a coach or a life coach and get certified and see how it works from there. So that little research that I did, that really helped me to fortify myself, saying, fine, I'll go ahead and do it. It will really help if I can add value to people, just by listening, just by being there for them.
I think cash flow is one game which I have not played, but I have heard a lot. I heard that this really helps you in thinking about how do you plan your passive income, how you can take it forward, so that feeling gets imbibed. I would also recommend everyone who is listening to this episode today to go ahead and have a look at this game. So that is one. And secondly, what you are saying is your personality was more or less quite gelling up with the qualities which is needed in a coach, and that fit really well, and that made your decision more stronger that this is the area where you want to go towards. So what kind of preparation did you do? Because when you do this transition, you have to have some financial backup or be ready with some of the sacrifices which may come along the way when you are initially trying to settle, right? So were you doing both job and whatever you wanted to do together, or how did you cross that bridge?
Thanks for asking this question, because there's such an important lesson that I've learned in my life, which I would really want to share with everyone. I was a little impulsive at that point of time. I take decisions, like immediate decisions. So when I saw this course, this certification course, I just plunged into it and I just gave my resignation to my boss, because I was okay at that point of time that the next 2 years were comfortable for me, that I could live out of my 2 years savings as such. I thought I'll be able to establish myself. That's what I looked at. But the another challenge that I really faced, and it comes from the community that I represent as such, is we are labeled or we are branded as people who do great service, okay, who are professionals who can do great service. But when it comes to business, these guys are not there yet. That's our upbringing, and I don't really blame anyone for that. So every family in my community has such things that way. So we are good service professionals, but when it comes to business, it's not for us. Same thing played in my family as such. People were opposing to me getting from a service industry to a business industry, and then all these things of all businesses are not good and this and that. So all of these things played. I had to really put up my foot out there, like really had to be very strong out there at that point of time to convey that, no, I really want to do this. And I really, really want to get into this, and I'm going to put a lot of efforts, and I'm going to do and tide over this. So as I said, family support is very important, and the financial support is also important. So when I plunged into this business, I was not able to come up with good marketing stuff, and wherein I could really go out and reach out to people. At that point of time, I never believed that somebody will hire me. So it was a very tough time initially for me to look out for clients, to get clients, to convince them, to get the support and really go out and coach them. So it was a very, 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 very tough ask for me for the first 2-3 years that I went through. But then slowly, then I realized what needs to go through, and then I really worked it over. One of the biggest things, if somebody wants to become a coach or a consultant for that matter, is please start your practice as you are in your job. Okay, don't just leave the job unless you are very secured financially and you have great family support and you can stay afloat for more than 5 years. Just don't leave your job and jump into consulting or coaching. Believe me, I'm not trying to negate you, or I'm not trying to show a pessimistic point of view. But what I'm really saying is, it's going to be tough if you are coming from a professional or an employee mentality to get into a business, unless you really understand the nitty-gritties and you have been a business family. It's going to be a little tough. At least for me, I was an introvert. So it becomes very difficult because business is all about marketing. Business is all about being there, showing up yourself, not getting down by hearing the no's and negatives, and a lot of stuff goes out there. You won't get your monthly paychecks. So a lot of things go through your mind as you juggle between your business, your family life. So it's best that if you are able to sustain or at least prepare yourself for 6 months to 1 year in parallel, having your consultancy, coaching stuff going on, plus working 9 to 5, I think that will be a great start because you already know and you're well prepared for the entire thing. So I may have lost 2-3 years, I'll say, of the start. Yeah, so that is my thought process, my takeaway, if people can take it from there.
Hey, Vaibhav, thanks a lot. I think it is a very powerful statement which you have made, and these are your experiences which you are sharing across. And when you told me about how you had to convince your family and you had put your foot down, it clearly says that you had a lot of clarity as to where you wanted to go. And they say clarity is power. While you may have faced difficulties where it took a bit longer than what you had aimed for, but I would also think on the positive direction that clarity helped you to take that plunge, because sometimes we keep on thinking that we want to do something but we don't take that plunge. But if we add onto it, as you said, that if you can have say 6 months to 1 year in parallel, if you want to do something, you should do it along with your job and have at least 2 years of backup before you take that plunge, so that you give yourself sufficient time in doing what you like to do. So today, I think it's been for you so many years you have been into coaching. So based on your experience you have had today till date, what are those top 3 issues which people come to you when we discuss about midlife problems? What are those top 3 challenges or top 3 issues?
The very topmost challenge that people come to me is relationships. People are really having a very hard time managing relationships. And I'm not talking about only about husband-wife, employee-employee relationships. In fact, all kind of relationships are getting a lot of issues. And people just can't manage them. It has just become like use and throw type of a thing. So if I don't really agree with what he or she is saying, I can't tolerate it at this level. And if it doesn't work till this level, I'm just going to go ahead and break it. That toleration level, which was there very high during early times, even during my times, that threshold has now gone very low. So people are really thinking, okay, so it's very simple. We don't agree, no problem. Let's part. What money you have, okay, children, this, that. That have become less emotional like, more professional like. So managing relationships is one of the biggest challenge. And when I say managing relationships, it's more about managing your emotions. People are really not able to manage their emotional life well. They're always searching for something into someone outside of them. And without going inside, they're always trying to search that somebody will complete their love and somebody will complete their happiness from outside world. And when they're not getting that, they're feeling dissatisfied. Energy levels go down. Their expectations are quite high. So they immediately take decisions and they immediately want to move on. So this is one of the biggest problem that people come up with. Okay. And that's also one of the most stressful things that people are really facing right now. And the second point that people really come to me is career. In this midlife, like in the post 40 phase, people don't want to really change their career as such. They want to be there and they just want to stick around, right? But if you look at the, say, like late 30s, early 40s type of a thing, people still want to take that risk with their career. And with so many things going around in their head and so many financial transactions that they have already made and the EMIs and things like those, they're also risk averse in a way. They don't know whether that is the right thing for them to get into. And post 40, they don't want to take much of the risk. But with the current scenario that we see from an external point of that we are seeing right now, there is obviously going to be job losses. There are obviously going to be external conditions which are going to play in your life. And then you're just trying to keep yourself afloat. And then you're stressing yourself more to just be afloat. And at the same point of time, you're not very happy. I just crossed 40 3 years back. And when I crossed 40, I realized that, oh my God, if I'm on an average, say 70-year guy, I've already lived my life of like more than 55-60% of my life. And if then I look back at my life, what have I really done? And when I look back, I think, oh, I just worked for money. I probably got a house, family. But what have I done for myself? Where's the growth and contribution that I have done for myself? And I really don't have answers for that. But then there is a lot of dissatisfaction that starts coming in or setting in if you have not taken the risk at the right points of time. And the third people are the people who are stressed out. They're not very happy with whatever they're doing, just completely stressed out with whatever is happening. And they just want somebody to listen to them. So people come just to sometimes vent out whatever is happening in their life. And they just want to change their life. So they may have gone through major transitions or some tragic stuff that they may have gone through, which they're not able to manage as such. And they want somebody to be there as a friend, as a guide, who could be just there with them, listen to them and understand their positions and help them make the right choice. So these are the top 3 challenges that people really come for. So one was relationship, the other was around career challenges, and the third was general life stuff that is happening around.
That was very much insightful to know that these are the top 3 challenges. And when you are narrating it, I think it is relatable to many people who are around this age bracket. That's why I wanted to understand your thoughts now. Okay, there are few challenges which we have, there are few problems which people have. Now, if they want to move forward and take some actions on them, so if I can ask you, if I want to start with career, people know that they have to change. They need to make that transformation with the current work, the way they are doing or what they are doing. So what are the key actions which you would suggest for people when it comes to career, which they can take during the midlife and see how it can help them to move forward from where they are today?
As you said in between, that clarity is power. What I really see in all of sessions that I've done is most of them, I'll say, lack clarity. They're confused a lot. They don't know whether to go ahead or whether to stop or whether to do something else. And if you really ask them, okay, so what is it that you want to do? And it will be very vague answers. Okay, I'll not get a very specific answer. Okay, this is what I want to do. And I understand because nobody has asked them this question before. So when I ask them, okay, what is it that you want to do? And we come up with some solution or some answer. And then I ask them, okay, so why? Why do you want to do this? And then there is no answer as such. Okay, why? Yeah, this maybe money, maybe something else, maybe something else. But they really don't have a direct answer to why they are doing what they are doing. And I'm not saying that your why has to be there perfect at the first instance itself and it needs to stay the same way for the next 20 years. No, it may change as you grow, as you learn, as you experience. It may change. But at least for the now, are you really ready or do you really know why are you doing a job? Okay, whatever you're doing, you might be doing a job, you're maybe into say BFSI, some industry. Just ask yourself, okay, so what am I doing? I'm serving here. Why am I doing it? And then you'll start finding answers because you may be absolutely happy with whatever you're doing. And I'm very happy about it because your why is very clear and you are well doing it. Or you may be a little dissatisfied and this is not something that you would like to do. One of the biggest suggestions is either hire a coach or just get a friend of yours. Okay, get your friend and ask him to ask you what is it that you want to do in your life in the next 1 year, and then keep persistently asking you why. So suppose I would like to reach a level of say CFO. Then the friend will start asking you, why do you want to reach CFO? Okay, then you will start answering, okay, because it makes me more money, because I will be able to impact more people. Okay, so why do you want to impact more people? Why do you want to make more money? And as the persuasion or the answers, the questions start pouring in and you start, it's like digging gold, right? So you'll start digging gold from your mental imagery, from your own self, and you'll start arriving at your why. Why do you really want to do something? And that is very, very important to know your why at this start at least. Like I have gone through this entire process. So I have a complete journal written for myself. As you said, clarity is power. I have an absolute clarity in all areas of my life, right from what I want to do in this area of life, why I want to do that, what are my underlying beliefs or my personal realities or things that I would like to believe upon, and what are going to be my strategic actions to do it. Like a 100-page document that has been written. I've printed that and I keep on modifying that as well. But once you have that, and once you start feeding that into your intellectual memory, because I keep on reading it once in a while, just to go through it and just to see what changes I've done and where I've reached with all of these, you start getting more and more clarity. And the more clarity you get, more inspired you get. And then you also start seeing signals in the outer world about the same things that you asked for. You start seeing people around. There's some advertisement that gets your attention. There's some email that has come in. So automatically, I've seen that you start attracting things in your life once you're very clear about why, what, the belief systems. Do it yourself, take a help of a friend, hire a coach, do something, but have that clarity in your life. It's very, 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 very important. And you rightly said it at the start. It's a very important thing, having clarity in your life. So this is something that I would really suggest people to do if they're finding themselves stuck somewhere.
Oh, that's very profound, Weber. Especially the part where you mentioned about people asking why and going deeper and deeper. And then what happens is you touch that emotional aspect of your why, which will come into play whenever you are thinking of pursuing anything. And that would finally mean that, as you said, will give you clarity whether you want to actually do it or not. In general, you do something is because you are quite emotional about doing it, right? So you, for example, you wanted to impact people and solve the issues, whatever they face in the midlife. So you had a strong emotions of talking to people and doing something for them, which prompted you to take that step when you left your job and entered into this whole new world. And that's what you are also suggesting. People need to have clarity. Go ahead and do that journaling. Ask your why. Take a help of a friend or a coach. Go deeper and deeper and deeper, and then come out with your strategies. What would be the strategic actions that you will take? And then law of attraction would probably help you, is what we have observed. And as you said, right? So when people take actions, is there anything they need to think about or they need to take a note of? Of course, few things which you have already spoken about is plan your finances, do something on both sides. Anything else which you think people should be aware of?
Just one point on the why part of it. And I just wanted to be absolutely clear that, so you need not have only one why. That's not like a defining why for you. Okay. What I've seen in my own life is you can have multiple whys. On a relationship level, I can have one why. Why I want to have better relationships. Okay. I could have one why on my relationship. So each why will actually enrich us to become a better person. And that's why we are here, right? To become a better person, to serve people. Don't get stuck with what if I don't find my why? You will find your why. Okay. Not in that session, maybe in somewhere else. But you will start finding your why as such. And don't get stuck into, okay, fine, I need to find just that one thing. But because there could be, you are a multifaceted person. So there will be different whys for different roles. And also, please remember, they are going to evolve as you progress. Now, coming back to your question as such, and what could really people do to enhance their life if they start knowing, okay, fine, this is what I want to do. There is what I call as the accelerated system, which we almost have forgotten in a way, is visualization. Sitting here, I can visualize anything. I can sit here and think that I'm sitting with the president of the United States and having dinner with him. I can think anything here. So man has a beautiful capacity to think and imagine, and all the things that he can imagine, he can also achieve. That's what we have seen in The Secret or the Law of Attraction as such. So one of the biggest tool that I recommend people is to have a vision board. That's like a killer stuff. You can really, really achieve immensely once you have a vision board. And there are specific ways, obviously, which I have evolved, and after reading a lot of stuff and after doing a lot of experiments with my own self, because I've been practicing vision boards since 2016. That's where my life also changed a lot. Like the coaching life, the professional life changed a lot. I've been practicing vision boards to the extent, like very much. So I really, really recommend that tool. It's not just a tool about, as it is normally said, okay, I know how to paste pictures, so there's nothing great science to it. I know what to do. No, it's quite evolved. It's quite deep than just pasting pictures. And once you are able to, let's say, marry your vision board along with the journal of life that you have written, once these two are in sync, it's a beautiful dance.
You have touched base onto two aspects which I've always been fascinated about. I have not tried yet. One was cash flow game and second was vision board. These were the two tools which I wanted to use and see how it can help me. And speaking about vision board, Weber, I want to dig a bit deeper, spend some more time on vision board because I've heard a lot. I wanted to just understand what it is. If you can just talk on that. So can you spend some time where you first let us know what is a vision board, and second, how do you go about doing it?
So vision board is not only about pasting pictures. Okay, it's quite more deeper than just pasting pictures. So in around October every year, few of my friends gather at my office and we create our own vision boards. Okay, it's a little group thing that we do. We look at our own journals or what we want to achieve in the next 1 year. And I like to keep it at the vision board for a year because that's the amount of time that I think I can think over, okay, in my future. But yes, people can always do it multiple years and things like those. So we go deeper into thinking about what we want to achieve in each area of our life. And we also look at a representation of that in terms of pictures. Now, it could be straight away as I want so much money. So straight away say, okay, the number as such. But it could also be in a different way, showing what money means to me. I'm just giving you one example. So money could mean, say, buying a car or having a fancy house or buying that particular iPhone model, okay, or an iPad. That is what I'm aspiring for. And that needs to go on the vision board and not only the money. So I look at it from that level. If I want to have, say, a particular set of clients, in my mind, I have, okay, these are some of the clients that I would like to attract. Now, if they're corporates, then I look at the logos as such. I'll print the logos and I'll paste them there. Or if they are generalized, from a particular division or from a particular industry, then I'll go out and paste those kind of pictures out there. And mind you, these are individual pictures. So what works for someone else, like what works for you, may not work for me. For me, maybe a particular corporate, like say Tata, maybe it has a huge significance in my life, and maybe it doesn't matter to you. So just because you copied Tata into your vision board doesn't mean that I need to copy the same logo. I need to go with something that really, really means a lot into my life. So into my growing years, whatever that it means. And it needs to be there. Now, you just don't start pasting pictures everywhere, right? There is a big science that goes into what are you going to paste on the right side of your page, what are you going to paste on the left side of your page, on the top of your page, on the bottom of your page. So I've put in a lot of science around that as well. What goes where? So your health area should go where, your financials should go where, your profession should go where, okay, your legacy, your personal stuff. The placement of it is also very, very important, because when you look at a page and when you look at these areas, right, left, top, bottom, you're also in a way using graphology in a way subconsciously to attract these things into your life. So that's one science that goes into it. Secondly, I think very important, as I said, it needs to tie up with your journal. What have you written in your journal? And it needs to beautifully tie up with your journal. Now, how do you do that? So there's a beautiful, I'll say, decoding mechanism that I have created for my own self. Like the picture, and immediately looking at the picture and the text written, I immediately know what it is representing. Okay, so it could be a 4-page document in my journal, but that 4-page document is being represented by just that one picture, and it's the way to tell my mind that by just looking at that picture and that few words that I've written, you have to reset all those 4 pages that I've written in the journal. So it's a beautiful decoding way, right? So say words A, B, C written out there, and the picture denote these 4 pages in my document. Just relation of that. So that really helps for my mind. So when I look at the vision board that I create as an end product, I'm actually looking not only on that one page or the one chart or the pasted pictures, but I'm looking at my entire journal out there. It's a beautiful representation of my entire journal on a vision board. And then I go through this process. So once we do that, so there's a lot of other things. I just shared a couple of them with you here. A lot of other things that we go through. And then we almost memorize it. I mean, really, really memorize it to the level that in the next 10 days, even if I close my eyes at any point of time, I'm able to recollect my own vision board very easily. So you can go top, bottom, right, left, wherever I go, I can beautifully recollect everything that I've written in my journal. And it's not about recollecting everything. That map is already there in my life. But I also go emotionally. So when I do my meditations, I go through my entire vision board. I get into my emotions. I really feel that I'm there, I'm doing that. And it then starts working wonders. So I have to wait after I do my vision board, after I've done everything that I needed to do from my side. Then the only thing that I can do is wait and act accordingly. So in that process, I act, okay, fine, if I have talked about, say, writing a book, then I'll open the document, title it my book, give some chapter names. So I'll just start acting towards it. Okay, I may not know the exact topic or everything may not be clear, but then I'll just start acting towards it as if it is just generally happening. This is a very, I'd say, evolved process in terms of creating the vision board. And it's a very, very tough, I'm not so tough, but challenging process to have the right kind of pictures there and to have the right kind of coding there, which reflects what you want. Because then that vision board becomes your clarity board. You're very clear about what you want to achieve. Everything is just there. You exactly know whether you want to say yes to the opportunity or no to it. Because if you're not written it on your vision board, then you might as well skip it for this year. You might want to pick it up the next year, right? Or sometime later when you want to pick it up. So quite an evolved process, which you can use for your entire life. I know we touched upon career and relationships and life as such in the earlier part. So a vision board you can really use specifically in a general sense for the entire life, or you could also be very specific about attracting a particular partner in your life. Okay, so you could have a specific relationship board for attracting a particular partner in your life. You could just go that specific. I don't go that specific, but yes, you can always because that will bring more clarity. Or it could be about your specific career that you would like to achieve. You can go really deeper into only that career and everything around that. So I've helped business people create a vision board where they are talking about their customers, their vendors, what kind of products they want to create, what kind of services they want to have, what kind of people they want to hire. Everything on that one sheet there, and everything would return across the journal. So this beautifully tied up, and the business is doing wonders. Okay, it's doing extremely well because you are able to talk clearly with your people. If I want to talk to you, or if I want to talk to my own self, if I have a vision board, I exactly know what I want to achieve. So it's crystal clear of where I want to go. That's the beauty of a vision board, and that's the beauty of a coach as well, because he is the one who can get you there easily, right? He is the one who can help you create that. He is the one who can also help you get clarity around the other areas of your life. So that's what a vision board is.
I think the way you have been narrating about vision board, I was in fact imagining what I want to put it there. It was so relatable, and what I understand, the crux of it is you first have your journal, like you put everything, what you want to do, what you want to achieve, how do you would strategize that. Have the journal, which you said is very critical, that's a key, which will then translate into the goals you want to achieve. And the goals you want to achieve, you then kind of precisely and very thoughtfully come up with the pictures which would summarize those goals, which would in turn mean summarizing the pages of your journal. And that is what is the key. And then the placements, as you talked about within the entire vision board, what will go where, and then have that as your reference for the next 1 year, have it with you. So one more question, during this entire process, once you are done with it, this vision board, I know you said memorize it and everything, but do you also keep it in front of any wall where you see it every time? What is the practice you follow?
Yes, it is there on my office wall. Okay, always there on my office wall. Wherever I sit, it's in the opposite wall, so I can see it all the time. But also, coincidentally, that's also the wall that my vision board needs to be there. So the directions also come into place a lot on this. Okay, where you place vision board. So according to my birth date and my number and my gender and everything, a particular direction is good for me to keep my vision board. So as I said, vision board is just not about pasting pictures. It's also about where you actually place it. And for me, thankfully, I was facing the same direction where my vision board is. So we also look at that, and then we need to also place it at the right points. And mind you, it's not only about the vision of life, but your relationship also has a direction, your success has a direction, your health has a direction, so your wisdom has a direction. So you need to place the right things in these directions. Without having much knowledge about Vastu, you can still find your own directions, which are best for you in terms of your birth date and gender, and place things there. That is another big thing. I think hardly people know. They just keep it somewhere, probably sometimes hiding behind their cupboard walls. And bits and pieces you can always keep. Like what I do is I also keep small notes here and there in my house as well. So if I want to achieve, say I want to write a book, I keep it in my success corner in my house, written in a small note and a small chat in the success direction I keep. And I know that relates to the larger vision that I have. So yeah, so that also is very, very important, that you don't just create it and keep it somewhere. You just need to keep it where you will be seeing it on an everyday basis and in the right direction as well.
And the pictures which you choose, these pictures, once you finalize, okay, this is what I am most emotional about. So that finding that picture, and usually you take it from magazines, or you can take it from, say, Google and find it out. But normally you have a color print and then put that color picture. Is there anything specific recommended there?
Yeah. So I do take color pictures only. Google is the best source. Like any internet search engine is the best source, I'll say. And somewhere the copyright is not an issue because you're just using it for a personal basis. I have done magazines and stuff like that. But the only drawback that I see in magazines is they're not always to the size that you want, right? They are either big or small or various sizes. So a Google image or an image from the internet, you can cut and paste it on a Word file, print the entire Word file, color, print out, and then cut it across and paste it across. Another challenge that comes in is sometimes you have too many pictures and too small a space. So you have to then really choose which pictures to keep and which pictures you need to give away, right? Or do away with. So placement also comes very important. So choosing the right picture and finalizing on that.
Thanks a lot, Weber, for giving that clarity about vision board as to what it is and how you go about doing it. I know there are a lot of other things which come into play, but I think it gives at least a fair bit of idea of what it is all about, and people can do some more research and work on those lines. So Weber, as you said, this can also be applied to the other areas, which are relationships and stress, which we spoke about. One of the key problems which people face. So these are the things, as you said, can also be applied to those aspects. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. So yes, you could have specific vision boards in a particular area of life, or you could have a general vision board. The important part is to have clarity, which comes through a journal, and to add to that clarity, you add the vision board, so it's clear as to where you want to go. And just one thing, so these are not like written in the stone type of a thing. So even if you have created a vision board for a year, but over the period of time you feel that this vision of yours no longer identifies who you are, who you want to become, then be flexible. Don't stop. Just go ahead and paste something more over that and start attracting that. So don't take it as, okay, fine, this is what exactly what I want and now I'm not changing it. But be a little flexible because you are evolving anyways. So your goals are evolving. What you want to achieve is going to evolve. So sometimes it's okay to change.
Wonderful, Vaibhav. Vaibhav, thanks a lot for all these powerful techniques and insights. And that brings us to the last segment of our show, Vaibhav, which I call as a quick fire segment. So I will throw some bullets at you and you have to respond back to them in a minute or so. First question is, what is the daily ritual or routine that you follow that keeps you ahead of the game?
Meditation is one thing, and exercise. These two things I'll not go much deeper, but yeah, meditation and exercise, something that I follow rigorously.
When you are down and out and things are not going your way, what is that one thing that uplifts you and make you roar again?
Two things again, my kids, and in my professional life, my testimonial book. So I have a book of testimonials which I carry with me. So whenever I'm down and out, I look at the testimonials of my own and I feel very happy.
What does success mean to you?
So success has different meanings to different people. For some, it might mean money. For some, it might mean something else. For me, I don't define success from the outer world or the external world as such. If I'm getting up in the morning and able to do my daily chores without anybody's help, I feel I'm very happy and successful in my health and fitness. If I'm able to work on whatever I want to do and not what my world wants me to do, I'm very happy. If I'm able to evolve and be with my family members and love them and do what I want to do, I'm very happy. So success for me is something that I want to do with freedom, independently, and I'm able to do that. It really means a lot to me.
So, Vaibhav, last question before we end our show for today. Can you let us know if people want to reach out to you, how can they do that, Vaibhav?
I'm reachable on my website, which is www.midlifecoaching.in, wherein you can write back to me any of your questions that you have. There is a FAQ section out there. My WhatsApp number is also there, so you can also directly send me a message from there. I'm also very much available on Instagram, Facebook, any channel that you have. That you can think of. And then there are a lot of other things that are there on my website. I have a program, T20 program that you can go through. A lot of good things that are coming up. And I'm also developing this mini website wherein you can also get a lot of information, booklets, summaries, some real secret stuff from me. You can take this all for free. All the details are on my website. So please do visit it and I'll be more than happy to serve you. Thank you so much.
That brings us to the end of our show. Thanks a lot for sharing your insights, key principles and solutions around the major challenges which a person is facing in his midlife today. In fact, your personal journey from being into a job and then transitioning out and helping people during their midlife, solving their unique problems is quite inspiring. And I am sure it would be of immense help. And not to forget the vision board which you have described. I hope our listeners can take some of the insights from whatever you have shared and apply these powerful techniques and work towards maybe simplifying their life.
Thank you so much, Rupesh, for inviting me to this discussion. This was powerful for me. Thank you so much.
Thank you for tuning in today. To summarize, the 3 key takeaways from the show were: 1. If you plan to do or start something of your own during your midlife, don't leave your job immediately. Try and taste the water around your target market for at least 9 months to 1 year before leaving the job. During this time, also work out and fill the skill gaps that you may have. For example, getting better on how to market yourself or getting better at selling your product. Second, getting clarity on what we want to do in life is the most important gift we can give to ourselves. To get clarity, we need to find out our why. Do a small exercise with a friend or a coach or someone whom you can trust. Find out what you want to do and have the other person keep on asking you why questions until you reach a point where you are able to get that clarity and find your true calling. Third, Once you are able to figure out what you want to do and why, journal all of it and use the journal to create your own personalized vision board. Look at the vision board every single day, and soon your actions coupled with the law of attraction will work towards helping you realize your dreams and goals. I hope you enjoyed listening to the show today. If you like what you heard, then please do subscribe, rate and review the show on Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, Castbox or any podcasting platform you listen to. Also, kindly do follow our Instagram handle, The Midlife Station, to catch up on the latest. You can access show notes for the show by visiting themidlifestation.com/webhub. That's all I have for you today. Thanks a lot for tuning in. I will see you back in the next fortnight with another esteemed guest. Until then, let us continue to take those small actions towards the betterment of midlife.